Hi, I'm Alex. I lead community at a company called Transposit, and I'm a self-proclaimed breakfast enthusiast. So today we're going to talk about how to get the right candidates to swipe right, which is basically my deep dive into more inclusive technical recruiting, as told by cats. Okay, so first and foremost, in this journey, job postings. I think we all think it's kind of a formality, but first impressions really matter, especially now. Job postings are no longer just for the employer, but they're actually for the employee. They're used as marketing tools. Think of them as your place on the internet, your billboard where you live and breathe. So let's talk about 5 ways to improve your job postings. Very BuzzFeed-esque. Must-haves, must go. We try and over-engineer the perfect candidate by hoping that they have 20 plus years, they're a great culture fit, they have the exact hair color that I've always wanted my entire life. But that's just not going to happen. It makes it unrealistic for you to find the perfect candidate, and it makes it really hard for those candidates to find you. And next, it's focus on the skills and qualities that someone would need to be successful. Again, we talk about this idea that we need. Oh, yes. We talk about this need of 5 to 10 years of experience, needs to be able to collaborate across 45 different teams and have that experience as well. But honestly, is that something that someone really needs to be successful right now, or is that something that they can learn on the job? And last, impacts versus requirements. We say it's required that you have this and that, you need these technical skills, which is important, but something that you should really focus on is the impact that the candidate is going to have at the company. What are they going to do? How are they going to change? How are they going to be more than just another person spinning their wheels? And next is the importance of language. Synergize elsewhere, people, because corporate speak is out. I think we've all seen job postings where it's like, again, the word synergize. I'm trying to think of another one. I'm sure you all have a bunch in your head. If you know them, shout them out, please. But whatever those words are, keep them out of your job postings. And next is this idea of, I want a tech ninja. I want a software rock star. It's all of these words that I think we've all heard, the very masculine in nature, are deterring women, deterring a lot of people who maybe don't have the same confidence as a lot of people who didn't grow up being called a rock star or a software ninja or anything like that. All right, highlighting company culture. Sorry, I really like this one because this is how I picture like the inside of my brain working. That like when I want to like when I recall information, I was like, oh, what is it? And I just pictured kittens just working. And so when I saw this, I identified with it like really greatly. So shout out to Google. I'm like just staring at it. Okay, so create a representative careers page. If someone sees your job posting on LinkedIn, they're obviously going to go to your careers page. So you want to make sure that the page itself actually represents the company that you have or the company culture that you want to create. Make sure that women are represented, minorities are represented, maybe people with disabilities are represented. You want to make sure that everyone feels like your company is going to be a home for them. And showcase your D&I efforts. I think a lot of people fall into the trap of being like, okay, we're doing it, it's behind a wall, people will know when they're here that we're these type of people that care, but that's not always the case. You're going against a bunch of different companies that are always showcasing the things that they're doing. So be proud of your efforts. Be proud that you're actually making the effort and time to have D&I activities and perks. And then that leads me into perks that everyone will love. I think that we get caught up in, we have ping pong tables, we have happy hours every Thursday. And those things aren't as inclusive to people of all walks of life, all ages. Like, how are you inclusive for parents? What is your maternity or paternity leave like? Do you have flexible work schedules so people can actually pick up their kids from work? These things are really important, and we have to make sure that we're gearing our pages to the whole spectrum of candidates. Next is accessibility and inclusivity. Again, I identify with this one greatly. especially after the donuts. So making sure that job postings are accessible. Things like text-to-speech, making sure that people who that might be blind can access your jobs page, making sure that all the images are accessible in case, again, you want people to know that there are people like them out there, and then eliminating the fields that feel exclusionary. For me personally, I actually take this one pretty seriously because I'm someone who didn't graduate college, and so whenever I came across a job posting that said, what's your degree? Where did you go to school? I immediately would click off the page because I was just like, okay, they want someone who went to Stanford or Harvard, and that just wasn't me. And I felt really weird going into the interview feeling like I was a step behind, like they needed something from me that I just wasn't able to give them. And that clearly isn't the case. People can thrive. And so yeah, so a testament to that. And then lastly, go beyond equal opportunity employer. I think that we all want to showcase that we're trying to do the right thing. And at the bottom, you always say like, so-and-so is an equal opportunity employer. And that's great, but why not showcase how? I want to see something more. When I see that, I'm like, okay, you copied and pasted that. Your HR and legal team just made you put that there. Like, I want to actually know what you're doing to make this an equal opportunity for me and for others. Okay, so now that we've talked about like good job postings, let's talk about bad job postings. Yeah, like I'll give everyone a moment to like really let that sink in. And like we're laughing, but like it's not funny at all. Okay, so a company that shall not be named. That I strategically cropped out, posted this on LinkedIn, and like, okay, obviously there's a blaring red flag about like what is just critically wrong with this job posting. But besides that, let's also talk about the other things that are difficult, things that we have talked about. Has good technical background. What does that mean? I have no idea what that means. I want to know as a candidate, I want to know exactly what I'm getting into. If we're talking about swiping right and all of that, like I want to know age, height, what are your hobbies? Do you like biking? Do you like hiking so I can stay away from you? And so, like, there's all these things I need to know. Like, be very specific in what you're expecting from your candidates. 8 to 10 years of experience. So it's for mid to senior level. For me, mid-level isn't 10 years of experience. I feel like that's a little unrealistic. And then relationship of individuals, so on and so forth. Who cares about them? But like, what that means is that they're only saying, what can you do for me? And really it should be what the company can give back to them as well. There's no information here, there's no pictures, and all I have is this like very horrible first line. So I'm gonna say like this is like a very blatant what not to do. And then if I switch over to world's most ugliest slide, and I know it's horrible, but I was so excited about this, and I will say this is a shout out to Lever. Don't know if anyone from Lever is here, but they have really great job postings. And I tried to kind of crop different pieces, but as you can see over here, they give you your basically 30, 60, 90, 3 months, 2 months, whatever, and seeing like how you're really going to be impactful at the company every step of your journey. So as a candidate, I'm like, okay, I know that in 3 months, I'm gonna learn these skills. If I don't have them now, I'm gonna know how to do this. They're talking about the opportunity. I like to say, my dad actually coined this phrase. He goes, Alex, you always have to be a hope factory. And I think that that's true in terms of writing your job postings for the different diverse candidates. It's like you want to give people hope that they're going to be something better than they were when they came in, and they're going to leave the company better than they found it when they move on to wherever they may go next. And at the end, we talked about equal opportunity employer. I know it's really small, but basically what they have is after equal opportunity employer, they said learn more about our culture and our commitment to diversity and inclusion, and it takes you to a page where you can really read up on what they're doing for those efforts. So yeah, going above and beyond. Shout out to Lever. All right, so now, yes, now that people have found you on the internet, you have this diverse pool of candidates that are all super excited to come in and join you. How do you choose your candidates? Okay, so unconscious bias. For those of you who don't know what unconscious bias is, it's bias that is unconscious. So there's that. So you don't know you're doing it. And there are different places where unconscious bias can exist where you have no idea they're slipping into the cracks. Application questions, again, this is where it goes back to me is what colleges did you go to? What year did you graduate? Really like making age very apparent. Also things like resumes where you see where people, their hometown, you're like, oh, they might have to commute, I'm not sure. And it's like, okay, maybe they do, but let that be up to them. And referrals. Referrals, as great as they are, can be a huge detriment. You want to make sure that you're not only hiring people, let me back up. Culture fit. We talk about culture fit, and we like referrals because we think that they're going to be a great culture fit because the person referring them is too. But we get stuck in this trap that we want to maintain culture where we really should strive for our culture to evolve and see how each individual person is going to change our culture for the better. So yeah, be careful with referrals. Just know that you're not hiring the same people every single time and that you're actually hiring to grow. I have a question. Who here has heard of Two in the Pool? Anyone? Okay, cool. Let's learn something. Okay, so as you have these candidates, everyone, I hear a lot in engineering organizations like, okay, we have to get a woman as a candidate. We have to get at least one woman to come in for an in-person interview, which, okay, that thought is really great, but actually that's a huge detriment to her candidacy and her application because it is statistically proven that by the statistic gods, apparently, that it's virtually impossible for a woman or a minority to get chosen when they are the only single person being interviewed for that role against other people who don't identify as someone who might be a minority in that space. And as you can see by our lovely cats, it's blaringly obvious that someone stands out, whether it be for the better or for worse. There is something different, and though we have this inherent group mentality, and once something is different, we get really caught up in it, and we view it as bad unconsciously. So a great way to fix this is making sure that when you do have candidates, maybe hold out a little bit longer so you can have two people. Because it's proven that people women or minorities are 72% more likely to get chosen if there's someone else that they can identify with in the same candidacy pool. All right, so tips and tools for addressing unconscious bias. Blind hiring techniques. This is really great. Something that I've seen implemented at other companies is that resumes and platforms that have people's applications, there we go, are completely blacked out. I can't see their name, I can't see their age, I can't see where they're from. All I can see is the stuff that really, really matters. And preset questions for on-sites. I have definitely fallen into the trap where as I'm recruiting for a bunch of different people, I'm asking different people different questions, and that's just not fair to the candidates. Why would I ask one person one thing and another person another and then try and gauge them at the same level? We just didn't have the same conversations. And although you want it to be fluid and not utilitarian, make sure that maybe you have a few preset questions that really nail into what you're trying to get out of the candidate, and then go from there. And make sure that the other people in the hiring group that are, what's the word I'm trying to say? Interviewing, there we go, that are interviewing also have preset questions. And gated feedback. Something that was super prevalent at one of my old companies was that you could give feedback in Lever, shout out. But then I was looking at other people's feedback, people were looking at mine, and then people were swayed because they didn't want to be the person who liked a candidate that everyone else hated, or vice versa. So we started gating our feedback, so you couldn't see anyone else's feedback until you gave your own. Kind of like Airbnb. Yeah, so if I break anything. And ultimately, we want to change the way that we approach interviews. Historically, interviews are geared towards people who have a lot of confidence, who kind of grew up knowing that they had to show people what they were made of. And I think that that approach is something that we just have to change. It's not that way anymore, and we have to really make sure that we are not having it be a battle, but more a test of collaboration. And so there's this idea of interviews are always show me what you got, get on the whiteboard, show me you can do this, and not really enough of like, are we going to be able to work together? Are we going to be able to have ideas and collaborate? Can I do this with you? Does my working style as someone who is here currently match your working style? Because it's not all about just, is the candidate right for you, but are you right for the candidate? Confidence stemming from privilege. Kind of touched on this a little bit before, but not everyone was privileged enough to grow up with the confidence told that, again, that they were a rock star or a ninja, and sometimes they were marginalized. And that's really hard when you get in front of a group of people and you have to do a presentation for an hour in front of a bunch, like 20 faces staring back at you, and that's not inherently your personality. You could be an introvert, and that's really difficult. And so we need to think about changing our interview process to ways that are really accessible and inclusive for different people, not just women, not just minorities, but also people with different mentalities and different working styles. And so how you can create a more inclusive in-person. Prep your candidate, super easy. No one likes to be surprised. And again, there are these introverts that kind of need time. For me, I love being prepped for a meeting because I need time to digest. I need to know what I'm going to say to feel confident. Some people can't just do it on the fly. Some people can, and I admire that, but I'm just not one of those people. And accommodate for different needs. If you're bringing on a candidate that's a new mom, is there a mother's room that she can go to halfway throughout like a full day of interviewing? If someone needs anything that's accessibility, if someone needs text to speech, any of those things, make sure that your candidates aren't going to feel overwhelmed and a burden when they come on site. And then reworking your technical interview. This is something that's really important, and something that I've been talking with actually a lot of people here is this idea of whiteboarding, and that is something that has just been so ingrained in the technical recruiting process. And we really need to change our mindset, because again, it is not you versus them, it's how you work together. So something, instead of doing, whiteboarding, maybe doing a paired programming or problem solving together, where you're actually both getting in and seeing what you guys can do together. And with that, I'm done.